All right, there we go. Welcome to the 2025 Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit in Stockholm. My name is Yoshi, and I'm joined now by Dr. Jussi Jylkkä. Welcome.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. We were just chatting about there's way too much exciting stuff in this conference. It's hard to figure out which track you want to go.
Exactly. That's a dilemma every time.
Dilemma every time. But there was an interesting panel that you ended up choosing, right? The what did you say? Psychedelic assisted therapy or what was it?
Or therapy assisted psychedelics.
Right.
There is most people think that it's psychedelic assisted therapy.
Right.
That psychedelics just facilitate the psychotherapeutic process. But I think it's a plausible hypothesis that the psychedelics act on their own, that they facilitate some kind of possibly psychological process as well as just like neurological processes which are healing in some sense. And we should know like what is the effect of just the psychedelic substance and the experience compared to the substance plus the therapy.
Right. Super interesting. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to working in the psychedelic field.
Well, I have done research during my whole working life, like more than 20 years. I studied in philosophy, where I also studied the mind-body problem, which was my favorite problem in philosophy.
Which means?
Well, experiences, we know what experiences feel like. We know what consciousness basically is from our own subjective perspective.
Right.
Like this is what it's like to sit here and talk with you. And there is this gap with science. Even though you would know everything about my brain, you wouldn't be able to infer like what it's like to be me.
Right.
So there's this gap between the subjective and objective perspective. So this is a big problem in philosophy. And I was doing research on this topic, and then I had this kind of like spontaneous mystical experience that you might call it, but it was only afterwards that I heard about mystical experience. So afterwards I knew that you could use that word to refer to that experience.
Right.
And it was spontaneous without any drugs or meditation or anything. It just hit me during one clear winter day.
Wow.
That when they ask the question that philosophers usually ask, like Western analytic philosophers, is how does consciousness emerge from brain activity?
Right.
But then I just realized that brain activity and brains and the whole physical reality, all these are conceptions in our mind. Like the brain is a mental representation or model in my consciousness. And all the physical models, they are abstractions. All the equations, they are mathematical abstractions, which are created by the consciousness of this ape, Homo sapiens. And they wouldn't exist without this human consciousness. All our models of atoms and molecules and neurons and brains, they are all just in our mind.
Right.
And this doesn't mean that they are not real, because they refer in the reality to something that is real. Because that's the best explanation for why nuclear plants work and why science is so effective in predicting phenomena in the universe. So they are probably right. They are probably like correct models of the reality. But they are still just models. They are still just abstractions in the mind.
Right.
And how this is related to the mind-body problem? Well, it's easy when you see it. The brain is an abstraction in the mind, but the mind, like my consciousness and you're here right now, this is real.
Right.
This is the concrete reality. We are the physical reality here, a process in the physical reality. And when I saw this, it blew my mind like completely, totally. It was a complete transformation. And then I tried to explain this idea to all my colleagues in philosophy, and they just thought I had gone mad.
Right.
Literally. And nobody understood anything.
Okay.
It was really frustrating. I became sort of alienated from my colleagues. and I became a bit like, I was disappointed, and that's why I switched to psychology, because I thought that I don't want to be unemployed. I lost my faith in philosophy. I decided, okay, if philosophy doesn't want me, then I don't want philosophy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started doing research in psychology instead.
Right.
And it took many years after I encountered Michael Pollan's book about psychedelics. Everybody knows that. Yes. I read it, and I saw that other people have also had these kinds of spontaneous, well, not spontaneous experiences, but mystical experiences, which look similar to my experience.
Right.
So I felt that, okay, there are other people in this world who have had these kinds of like insight experiences with these drugs. And I had never taken psychedelics. I had experience with cannabis, and I was integrating that with my meditation, and I consider it as psychedelic, and I still consider. But I found my tribe, so to speak, people who have had these kinds of experiences. So of course I wanted to try psychedelics, and I did, and I started doing then like research with psychedelics, and so that's how I got into psychedelics research.
Interesting.
Yes.
What kind of research have you been doing in psychedelics?
It's mainly about the relationship between naturalism or science and mysticism and all these kinds of psychedelic facilitated insights that people have. Because my background is, I'm a strict naturalist. I'm a physicalist.
Right.
But physicalism doesn't mean what most people think it means. Because like physicalism, like all philosophical isms, they are word plays, like language games, and you can formulate them in many different ways. And naturalism also can be formulated in a way which is compatible with idealism, for example, or like pantheism. Like they are just like science should be kept distinct from all the philosophical isms. Science is just science. We observe the reality and we create models of the reality, physical equations and so on. But what is the reality behind these abstractions? Then we step into metaphysics, like literally behind physics.
Right.
And then we can have, because metaphysical models cannot really be verified or falsified. They are mainly like matters of taste, you could say. So naturalism is one of those philosophical conceptions. And some people, quite many people, think that it follows from science. It doesn't. Like science is compatible with idealism or panpsychism or many kinds of philosophical ideas.
Right. Just that they can't be proven or disproven.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my whole research now for 3 years, I have been working in this one project whose name was like life-transforming insights or comforting delusions. Like about psychedelic insights, because this is a common objection to psychedelics, that when people take drugs, they get all these delusions, hallucinations, and they distort their mind, and it cannot be right. So it's somehow like ethically wrong to give drugs to people because they elicit these kinds of like hallucinatory insights. So I wanted to look at like what kinds of insights people do get, and can we say that they are true or false?
Right.
So that's the research about.
Can we?
We need to separate between different kinds of insights.
Right.
When we ask people to write openly about their psychedelic insights, the control group was meditation insights. We had like something like 150 participants reporting their psychedelic experiences, and we didn't give any instructions, nothing whatsoever. We just asked them to tell everything. And we found the most common insight was this psychological insight about their own lives, about their behavior, family relations, about their own past and values and so on. For example, some person reported that they clearly saw the reasons for their alcohol abuse and they stopped abusing alcohol.
Right.
And those kinds of things, that was the most frequent, almost in half of all the responses. And then the mystical type was the second most frequent, something like 35%. And many of them were these classical, everything is one, and we are all connected, and these classical things, but also other kinds of like mystical type ideas, like we are all just a meaningless pile of electrons, but we are all connected. It's kind of this like almost like nihilism, existentialism, but still like unitary experience. We are all the same piles of electrons.
Community nihilism.
Sort of, yes. And it was like framed in this positive sense still.
Right. That's
and then we had a large class of like philosophical existential, which was the third biggest class of insights about the purpose of life and meaning and life wisdoms and that kind of stuff. And none of these can be judged to be delusional. Like the psychological insights, they are similar to what people get in psychotherapy, for example. And of course, people could have like false memories about their lives, for example, but that's just the way it goes. So there's nothing specific to psychedelics there, at least in our data. We have no reason to suspect that there would be somehow delusional insights about this alcohol abuse guy, for example. Then the mystical insights are interesting, of course. Many had pantheistic and idealistic insights. We are all these like forms of this cosmic consciousness, or like this loving cosmic consciousness. And well, philosophical or metaphysical isms, we cannot say whether they are true or false. So we need to be agnostic about them.
Right.
And then the third class about like what is important in life and life wisdoms and stuff like that. That's also something that we can't really say true or false.
Right.
But then there is other research where people report, for example, paranormal experiences like telepathy or precognition, like seeing the future, or communicating with alien entities in other galaxies, like literally that there are alien entities in this physical universe that people communicate with telepathically. We cannot say that they are false, but they are highly unlikely to be true given what we know about the reality. So for example, telepathy, if that is defined as communication without any physical means, then it would violate the causal closure of the physical. It would violate the second law of thermodynamics. And we have really, really good reasons to believe in those like really fundamental physical laws. We have like lots and lots and lots of evidence for these hypotheses. And if some person has this experience on psychedelics that they communicate telepathically with aliens on Andromeda Galaxy, that's extremely weak evidence against this, or it's weak evidence for the existence of this phenomenon.
Right.
And also it's made even weaker by the fact that what we know about the reality.
Yeah.
Of course, we cannot say that they are false. They could be right, but it's just highly, highly unlikely.
Yeah. But telepathy between two people, that feels like that can be proven or disproven quite easily, right?
Yeah, there are lots of experiments, psi or all these like parapsychology experiments, but to my knowledge, it hasn't been proven. Because it would be like really simple to do that.
Yeah.
Two people in isolated rooms, like cards or something. And this has been done, and there is really no evidence for that. Okay. One meta-analysis claimed to show some evidence, but there is, of course, like publication bias and all kinds of problems. So my verdict is that there is no evidence for that.
Got it. Is this what your presentation here at the summit will be about?
Yes.
All right.
That was basically the summary of that.
See, now I'm caught off guard because that was my next question, but now we've gone through that already.
Yeah, that's basically the whole like title of the presentation is Comforting Delusions or Life. The title is How to Evaluate these psychedelic insights.
It's very interesting. I've heard a version of this topic before where they talk about everything that we perceive with our senses has evolutionarily evolved to make it more probable for us to survive. It's not reality that we see, it's just a version of reality that enhances our ability to survive, pretty much.
There are two senses to that.
There are two
senses
senses
to that claim that you are making, that it's not reality that we see.
Right.
Because, okay, let's take this cup here.
Yes.
Is this cup real?
Yes.
It is and it is not. Because, like, the way I perceive this cup, or the way that you perceive it from a slightly different angle, we have different perceptions of the cup. None of these experiences are the cup. This experience, this cup experience perception wouldn't exist without this mammalian individual here.
Right.
It's this perception is created in this causal interaction between this cup and this animal. And I think we have very good reasons to assume or hypothesize, we have good evidence for the hypothesis that there exists something in the world that we call the cup.
Yeah.
If I die, you continue to perceive the cup. Right. That's one piece of evidence, that the cup doesn't depend on my perceptions. I think Berkeleyan, like George Berkeley's subjective idealism is false. It's like undermined by lots and lots of evidence. But still, what Berkeley was right about is that this perception, this like cup as we perceive it, that's partly a product of my brain and body, how it interacts with this cup.
Right.
But there is something in this reality, probably, but what it is, of course, physics would model it as like molecules bound in some specific way, and there's water, H2O, hydrogen and oxygen bound in a specific way. And water is a good example because it's a natural kind. It's something real out there. Like cup is an artifact. For an ant, it would be a mountain. They cannot lift it. I can. For the ant, it is not like a separate object. It's like a mountain. So cup is different kind from water. But natural kinds, as philosophers call them, like water or gold and all the animal species and so on, like humans as well, they have some kind of nature independently of how we conceive of them. They exist in their own right. They have independent existence, so to speak.
Right.
But still, all that we have of all these individual objects, like water, for example, hydrogen is a model in my mind, and in the physicists' theories, and hydrogen the same. What is it in the reality out there that corresponds to these models? What is water when there is no single human being in the universe to model it as water?
Yeah, it's a good question.
That's a mystery.
Yeah, we can never know.
We can never know. Or
maybe we can, I don't know. With super intelligent AI or something, maybe we can get there.
No, I don't believe it, because it would be representational.
Yeah.
This is a logical impossibility.
Yeah.
Because let's say that water has some kind of representation independent nature, which means that there is something in the world that we call water and what we represent as water. But what is it beyond these representations?
Right.
The super intelligent AI, all that it would also have is models and representations.
Yeah.
So basically, to know what water is in itself,
yeah,
we would need to be water.
Right.
Literally. And that's impossible. But, here's the twist. There is one entity in the universe that I can know directly through being it. Can you guess what it is?
You.
Yes.
And that is interesting enough on its own.
Then you get the problem is that when you try to look at yourself.
Yeah.
When you try to okay, I'm a physical process in this universe. I'm made up of the same atoms as the whole universe.
Yeah.
So, and I have this privileged access. This is my window to the nature of reality. My direct access to the nature of reality.
Yeah.
And what it is, the problem is that people, when they try to then look at themselves to see what is the reality, they start making models. They start, again, this modeling game. They start metacognitive reflective models of myself. Like, what am I? And then they have all these models and models. But that doesn't help. Because when you create the model, it's distinct from the object. You create the duality.
Right.
You lose what you aim to get.
Right.
So you need to stop trying. You just need to like be. This is it.
Yeah.
Here it is all the time. You don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
It's here all the time. Of course, when you meditate, or for some people, if they take psychedelics, they can get this unitary state where they could have this more direct, like non-conceptual, non-representational insight into the nature of their own self.
Yeah.
But I think it's present all the time. This is it. All the time. This is the fundamental nature of reality. But only for my part. It's of course like different. I'm really different from water. I'm different from you. Mm-hmm. I only have access to this part of the universe.
Right.
So I'm a bit like locked in state. And some people argue that the mystical experience, when they have the feeling, the experience of dissolving into the reality, then they have the feeling that they get to know the fundamental nature of the whole of reality, a bit like in Vedanta or Hinduism, the Brahman. Mm-hmm. They get to know the fundamental cosmic consciousness
become
that
one
underlies,
with the universe,
one with the universe.
Then you feel it.
And I think that's a bit chauvinistic. That's arrogant. Like how this small little mammal, this small animal would get to know the whole of reality. Of course, you can get those kinds of experiences. Yeah. Like, for example, empty consciousness experience, which I don't get with psychedelics. I get it with meditation. Mm-hmm. And it feels like it's really real. Mm-hmm. Of course, it is real. It's my experience. And it's empty consciousness, something like completely novel kind of, like different kind of consciousness from this everyday consciousness.
Right.
And it's easy to think that the whole universe would fundamentally be that kind of like empty consciousness.
Yeah.
But the problem is, how can I rule out, when I think of it like rationally, how can I rule out the possibility that it's just a state in my brain? Mm-hmm. That it's like human specific, human dependent. Yeah. Thomas Metzinger, philosopher, says that this state of empty consciousness can be framed in this like predictive coding neuroscience as a state of tonic alertness. Mm. And we have like neural correlates for empty consciousness from like meditative monks, nuns. So we have evidence that it is a brain process. And when you put a person into the fMRI scanner, the brain scanner, and give them psychedelics, and then they feel this like they dissolve into the universe. Yeah. But when you look at them, they don't dissolve.
Yeah, they're still there.
So it is like but people need to be like critical about this. So I think it's amazing that we can know the small part of the reality through ourselves. But why would we like need to know the whole of reality? It's a bit like a Christian would say that it's heretical. In Christian mysticism, this is interesting because in Christian theology, we are creatures and God is the creator. And to say that we would somehow like become identical with this, like, basically God.
Yeah, we want to feel what the creator is like. Yes. Being the creator.
That's heretical because no one can be God. God is God. And we are not God. We can be images of God. And I sympathize that idea because I think just this is chauvinistic to think, or arrogant to think that I would be able as a small mammal to know the whole nature of the universe. The nature of the universe beyond our models is just a mystery. We need to be humble. We need to be humble and say that we don't know.
Just knowing ourselves is difficult enough.
Yes, exactly.
And mystical and amazing enough.
Yes, it is amazing.
You can spend the rest of your life trying to figure out yourself and you won't do it.
Or just resting in calmness, resting in silence, like, oh, this is it, like amazing. Of course, well, you cannot, well, we have responsibilities and we have duties.
Well, that's the thing.
We have families and
reality comes knocking every now and then.
Yes, and we have duties to make the world a better place. Not just escape in a cave and meditate. I think that's a bit problematic.
Yeah, and boring. So what's something in the psychedelic research field that you're excited about in general, something in the field?
Oh, psychedelic research is exciting in itself. What is most exciting right now? Well, I was excited by one recent clinical trial in JAMA this like
the journal,
where they gave LSD to subjects without using the word LSD because they used like it was like a medical derivative of LSD,
right?
Some tartret or what they called it, but basically it was just LSD.
Right.
And they didn't mention the word psychedelic in the whole paper. They didn't mention the whole word LSD in the paper, and they, insofar as I understood, they instructed the clinicians in the trial not to provide any psychotherapy. And the subjects, they were suffering from generalized anxiety disorder. And the results were, it was a dose response like dependent study. They gave different doses of LSD starting from, I don't remember, some really small and then 200 and 200 micrograms. And they found quite substantive therapeutic effects in the 100 and 200 conditions, and 100 was the optimal. And then they wrote in the abstract that 100% of the participants had side effects in the 100 and 200 conditions, like hallucinations and pseudo-hallucinations and things like this. So they framed the whole psychedelic experience as a side effect.
Interesting.
Yes, and this is exciting because it runs counter to the whole what we have in most of psychedelic science, because this wasn't really psychedelic science at all. It was like just pharmaceutical science, pharmacy, or medicine. And they still had these good effects. I think what we should be much more critical in psychedelic science and avoid the hype and avoid certain like dogmas of psychedelic science, that it's always the mystical experience, that the experience is always the most important. I think there is good evidence to support that claim, but it's also a plausible alternative hypothesis that this physiological change that takes place in the brain, that could be important even without the subjective effects. But some people consider this as heresy, like that you shouldn't consider. Because we have these like certain like, some people talk about sacred knowledge with psychedelics, and some like quite prominent researchers who do excellent research in their own fields, but when they start doing psychedelic science, they somehow like lose all their critical thinking and self-criticism and skepticism, which is like essential to science. And then they start talking about like this sacred knowledge and everything is suddenly psychedelic, and they have this like quasi-religious ideas which don't apparently need any support because they have themselves had some revelation, and then they don't need to like argue for that in a rational manner. It just suffices that you go and you take acid and you have this revelation, and then you believe it, and then you start preaching. And you see it in psychedelic conferences. I was a bit shocked when I came to some first psychedelic conferences about this like subcultural connotations and imagery and even the music, and it was a bit like coming to a church almost in some conventions. And I have done research in lots of different areas, like cognitive psychology, like bilingualism research, like executive functions, and philosophy of language, philosophy of mind, experimental philosophy, lots of different fields. But psychedelic science is the only research field where I have seen these like religious components. And I think that's really problematic.
Of course.
Because if we want to like create good quality science, and if we want to avoid these pitfalls of psychedelic science, of being perceived by the general public as these like weirdos who just take drugs and become like freaks, we want to avoid these pitfalls and separate like activism from science. We need to be critical. We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the 50s, 60s, 70s. Definitely. And and I don't say that, for example, self-experimentation would be wrong, because like many psychedelic scientists self-experiment. I have done that as well. And that's not problem in itself when people are aware and reflective of the effect of their personal experiences on their research. And they need to distinguish, they need to actively reflect, what is my personal faith or belief, and what is then scientific hypothesis supported by evidence, And so we did a study recently with my anthropologist friend Aila Mustamo. She has studied like subcultures, black metal, neo-Nazis, and all kinds of subcultures in Finland. And then we studied psychedelic experiences in psychedelic researchers. Like there's lots of anecdotal evidence that when you go to psychedelic conference and when you talk to people, it seems that almost all of them have had their own psychedelic experiences.
Yeah.
And many of them also say that they got into psychedelic research because of their own experiences.
Yeah.
But nobody had done this kind of research previously. But then we went with Ayla and we asked in a survey, anonymous survey, 111 researchers were included in the sample, and all were like academic psychedelic researchers. Most of them were from psychology, medicine, and neuroscience. Those were the most common fields, and there were also some 10-20% from philosophy and humanities.
Right.
Can you guess how many of them had personal experience of classical psychedelics?
100%.
No. 85.
85.
It was lower than what we anticipated, but it's also good that we didn't sample like selectively, maybe.
Yeah.
Because many of the respondents also like worked in some projects. They had been hired to work in a project.
Right.
So they went for work.
Yeah.
And not like they didn't have like
experimentation.
Yes. But still 85 of classical psychedelics and 95 of psychoactive cannabis. But it's still, if you consider the general population, it's between 2 or 5%, depending on the country, who have experience of psychedelics. I don't know about academics in general. I think researchers probably have more experience of drugs than the general public, because researchers can themselves study the risks and harms.
Yeah.
and they can see that, okay, this drug education that we have received in school is not really evidence-based.
Yeah.
And then because researchers are curious, they can go and self-experiment. But I don't believe that 85% of researchers would have like drug experiences. Maybe something like 10, 20.
Yeah, probably. Seems high.
Based on my experience, like in other fields, I haven't heard of anybody who has had psychedelic experiences.
Well, it's an interesting research field, obviously.
And one thing still,
reason.
I'm now like hyping this own research here and advertising it, but one interesting thing, because obviously it has been criticized that this creates a risk of bias when psychedelic researchers are themselves part of psychedelic subcultures.
Right.
They hang around with people who use psychedelics.
Yeah.
And then they use psychedelics themselves. They have all these cultural models and beliefs about psychedelics. So obviously there is a like risk of bias here.
Of course,
that they just start advocating what they already believe in. And this is a problem when the general public has these kinds of perceptions. The field loses its credibility, even though people do lots of like good quality research also, and there's lots of good potential, like evidence-based. So we need to be like aware of these problems. What we found, we also asked them about their opinions of psychedelics, about positively transforming the society or saving the environment, or like improving mental well-being, or all kinds of like 5 types of positive opinions. And we found surprisingly strong associations between psychedelic use and those opinions, more positive opinions. It was like, I have done lots of research in different areas of psychology, and beta coefficients in like regression models, 0.5, it's quite high. It's medium size, but in psychology it's high. Like something like 25% of variance in the opinions was explained by personal use of psychedelics. But of course it also goes the other way around. It could also be that people who have positive beliefs, they also use more psychedelics because it was correlational. Important point. But still, obviously there is a risk of bias, and psychedelic researchers should be more self-critical and avoid hyping.
Super interesting. Where can people find and follow your work?
They just put my name in Google Scholar and they will find the articles.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Dr. Jussi Jylkkä, thank you very much for sitting down for a chat with me.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone tuning in from the Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit. My name is Yoshi. Catch you next time.